My name is Mike Hislop. I'm the commercial lead for Dexterity Robotics, which is out of Palo Alto, California. And as the name implies, we supply robotics. It's built on machine intelligence and machine learning. And so I had a wonderful afternoon during this Springboard event with Plug and Play, and it was really a great opportunity. We got to visit a lot of CPGs and companies that are engaged in the retail sector that we simply wouldn't have met otherwise. And they brought to us real pains, and where a company feels like we can address those pains. And so once again, it's been a wonderful opportunity, and I look forward to working with Plug and Play even further.
So I used to run an automation company. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Schneider Electric out of France, but I ran their automation business here in the United States. And so we would focus on warehouses. And when you think, what do all these things have in common? Whether you're stocking, retrieving, kitting, picking, they all require human dexterity. They're not easy to do. And believe me, I'm going to go back to that when I had that hat at Schneider Electric. I tried to automate it. In other words, I brought in automation, I brought drives, motors, we tried everything, and chances are it kind of looked like this. In other words, it was a big chunk of metal, it was a lot of complexity, it took a big footprint, it wasn't a good solution. And so, what changed? In other words, have things gotten better, or are we still presenting this big chunk of metal? Well, processing power, among other things, and artificial intelligence advancements have really helped in robotics. So now we feel like we can do this kind of thing with robotics instead of just big chunks of automation. So our approach, if I just talk about how we segment robotics, so the first generation of robotics is probably the one everyone gets. It was about a fixed workload. So you see it here on the left panel. Think of an automotive assembly line. The car's coming down, the Chevy, the Toyota, whatever, and this welding robot just performs welds, and it's always in the exact same spot. It just zaps it, boom, boom, boom. These things have been around for 30 or 40 years, and they do a great job. But if that car is even a millimeter off, it's going to get whacked because they can't handle any variability. So that was the first gen. So now if you look at the second one, now let's really advance it. Suddenly we have drones, we have autonomous vehicles, we might have shopping carts. And so, but what are you really doing? You're moving inventory around, you're moving around boxes. But what are you not doing? You're not addressing what I just mentioned before, all that stuff that requires dexterity. You're instead just moving boxes around. And so what you have is the robot's picking apples out of a bin, and it's dropping them a couple inches above the surface. So now, are you going to want to eat that apple in about 3 days? It's going to be all bruised, right? And the next question is, would you as a human pick the apple that way? Chances are you wouldn't, right? You don't do sweeping motion unless you're doing the robo dance from the 80s, right? So instead, you're going to do point to point, and you're going to gently, in a tactile manner, drop it into that bin, just like a human would do it. And so we're part of the third wave. So we take these disciplines, very advanced telemetry in motion control planning, AI machine learning, computer vision, and overarching controls, and we put those all together into one system. And so where do we fit in? Let's just talk about every one of you. You might be on the commercial side of your business, but there's definitely the backbone is the warehouse and logistics, the supply chain. And so you have B2B, you might have B2C, but you have some boxes, and you have a lot of labor, and they need to move these boxes around. And let's say it's really challenging to get people to work and do that position because they could go work at Starbucks probably for about the same wage as they could for moving boxes, candidly. And so you might be experiencing some kind of labor crisis, or it might be very difficult to get talent to do these traditional positions. Or if you think e-commerce, you might be sorting, you might be doing some kind of kitting in e-commerce. This is our core technology. So what you have here is you have a robot, and I have a tech on the left side. He's just putting random things, so whether it's a squishy thing, a hard thing, a round thing. And this robot has never seen any of these objects before, and it's identifying the ideal grasp point. And notice the big thing, picking is easy. Doing a nice little tactile placement on the other side, that's the challenge. To do a drop just like a human would do it. So we offer robots as a service, so we're hardware controls in software, all of that, and we service it, so we're in charge of the whole thing. And so why don't I bring it together and show you. Here's a deployment that we're doing in the baking industry. So picture a big baker. He bakes the bread, he takes it to his distribution center. From his distribution center, it's going to go to the Krogers, the Walmarts, Targets, et cetera, of the world. And so it's distributing it. And so what you have here on the left side is picture inbound. You have white bread, you have wheat bread, you have all that stuff. That's on the left side. This is obviously a scaled down version of it. And on the other side is that Safeway. That tray represents Safeway 252 and Walmart number 291, et cetera. And so what the robot's going to do is do fulfillment. It's connected to the warehouse management software, and it's going to know, okay, Target needs 2 whites, a wheat, what have you. So this is what happens in the distribution center. So it comes with suction, it goes down, and it doesn't touch the bread, it just touches the wrapper and suctions up. And guess what? It didn't do a suck and drop in the middle of the tray like a lot of the other robots would do. It's doing it just like a human would do it. It's doing a little push and tuck. It's packaging that tray, because what do you need to do? You need to maximize the space on that tray. And so then it pulls a few more. And so this is it. It's doing fulfillment. Next, it just goes off to the stores. So I think the key thing that I'd like to focus on in this is that it's doing it just the way a human would do it. In other words, a human would lift it gently, because this is a perishable item that's very delicate, and it's taking it over here, and it's doing it, once again, it's packaging the tray. And so once again, it just as reference, if you go to YouTube, push picking robots and see how many just drop it from a couple inches or do a suck and drop in the middle of the tray. That's predominantly what you're going to find when you do a search like that. And so one more thing, I want to show adaptability, because what happens at 1 a.m. if one guy doesn't like the robot? And that's what this tech's doing. He's saying, okay, I'm going to try to screw around with the robot, some external interference. And look at it, it still just does its work. It maintains absolute position, it's still picking, and it's still doing the push and tuck, it's doing the tactile placement of the bread. Here, I'm going to show you complexity. Okay, so here the robots are doing their thing, they're picking, and all of a sudden let's see here, they're going to pick a couple more loaves of bread, and here you have an empty tray. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the flip and put it away. And like I said, that is variable workload. You will absolutely not see that anywhere in the world. I would challenge you to try to find that. What are some of the use cases? Here's one that you'll see quite a bit. This is just fulfillment, e-commerce fulfillment. So this is cosmetics. So you have a pick to light, as we call it, and so it's just doing kitting. It's just doing shopping. It's saying I need one of these, one of these, one of these. Now this you will find on YouTube quite a bit. I mean, you'll see there's a dozen companies, probably a couple dozen that do this. So this isn't that innovative. But what's kind of interesting about this is, if you notice, we put very challenging stuff here: cylindrical stuff, shiny stuff, metal stuff. So we try to give our robot a challenge. And so I think that's probably what you would see. There's more complexity in this. Oh, here's the last one. And this is also a big use app within your, especially in e-commerce, singulation. So you have a bulk pile, picture at Amazon or whatever, and you just got to put it onto a sortation system, and you're creating each as ones. So we see that this is probably one of our biggest use cases. Is just, so this is either, they might call it induction, fully automated induction, or just singulation. We just did it for the parcel industry. But once again, notice that the key thing is the robot is finding the ideal grasp points each time. So let me part with one last one, and that's palletization. So here we have a loading cart. Yeah, okay, here you have a jersey, what they call a jersey cart or a loading cart. And so you have boxes. And let's say the robot is not connected to any software, so it doesn't know what's coming. If you were a human, what would you do? Chances are you would put a couple by each other and compare them and say, oh, well, this is the bigger box. Naturally, this goes on the bottom. So that's more or less what this robot's going to do, is it's going to create a buffer zone for 3 boxes. So it's going to look at all 3 and say, okay, hey, this is the biggest one. I'll put this one on the bottom first. And now I'm going to compare the next 3. And now, okay, that one looks, so think this is dynamic. The robot's never seen it, does not know what's coming. Now in the perfect world, you have a very tight warehouse management software, and you know the sequencing of the boxes. And so the robot would know, and then obviously this effort would be much faster. It just know what's coming. This is where it has no idea, and it just has to build the jersey cart on its own. And so depalletization, just picture this in reverse. And so that's it. Thank you. Appreciate your time, and